You're listening to Spotlight on Business on Newstalk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. Once again, here's your host, Laura Smith.
Welcome back to the Style File. This is the Memorial Day weekend edition with the great Danny Reynolds of Stephensons of Elkhart, the Reynolds family who's owned it since 1964 and has really, it is truly not just for Elkhart. I mean, we know it. Stephensons is famous in Elkhart. But I have a feeling the entire country has pretty much heard about Stephensons at this point. And do tell us, we need to hear the inside scoop of what happened when you opened your phone just a few weeks ago.
Yes, it was quite a surprise. I think it was Thursday, around the 1st of May. I can't remember when we turned the calendar, but it was either last day of April, first day of May. I get a text out of the blue saying the president requests the pleasure of my company at the Small Business Summit to be held at the White House on Monday, May 4th, 2026.
So you had exactly 36 hours or something or whatever.
To figure it out. Fortunately, my friends at the National Retail Federation were also aware. I guess that's how I first knew it wasn't a scam. I texted one of my co-workers there, and she said, yep, we saw that too. And so they were able to assist with, making arrangements and accommodations and things like that. So 2 days later, I'm on a plane to D.C., and that following Monday, there I was. It's almost one of those, even though I was just there in March, this was a little bit different, knowing that we were going to get to hear the president speak and potentially meet him. It was just one of those surreal kind of moments. A friend that was with us had never been before, and he said, this just does not seem real, and it's going to take a few days to soak in.
Absolutely. So you were there with, was it 50 small business owners?
There were, retailer from each state. And President Trump said something very cool when he first started speaking, is that small business is big business when we're in a room together. So in other words, he gets that. And, everybody has different opinions on President Trump, but nobody can deny his business understanding and prowess. Yeah. And the fact that he understands the power of small business. 1 in every 3 Americans is employed by a small business. And you look at what retail adds to the economy each year, $5.3 trillion to the annual GDP comes from retail. So, again, the fact that the president, because he's not a typical politician, understands these things, is one reason
and appreciates it.
Yeah.
You could say, oh, he's in the billionaire class. Well, he cares about Main Street.
He does. And the Working Families Tax Act was a great example of that. I know we talked about that on this show a couple of months ago, so I won't go too far into that. But that has done so many great things for, honestly, businesses of all sizes, but especially small businesses when you're looking at employees who survive on tips and sometimes working overtime, not paying tax on those is such a big deal.
Huge.
And then just capping the corporate income tax at 21%, such a big deal. So just little things like that the average out-of-touch politician may not fully understand. But one of my takeaways, and I know when we were on the air last week, we got into this a little bit. One of the coolest things is that he spoke, I think it was supposed to be about a half hour, and he ended up speaking for well over an hour. No teleprompter. No. He had a couple note sheets, and he was just very comfortable, very sort of off the cuff. He was joking around. There was some press there, so he obviously, laid a few things out toward them because another sidebar that I'll tell you I noticed more than one time is when he makes these digs at the press. So we're in the stateroom of the White House. There's 50 of us. There was a few other trade organization like National Retail Federation, the National Federation of Independent Businesses, I think, and then SBA people, which is Small Business Administration. But So there's this room of us, and then in the back, there's probably 100 members of the press packed into this tiny little area. And he'll make a little dig at them and look at them and kind of give them a smile. And I saw on more than one occasion them smiling back at him. So I think they all kind of are in on the joke a little bit with how they treat him, and he fuels the fire sometimes. And so it's just a whole little secondary thing but as I started to say, you could really sense that he was enjoying himself because I think he felt like he was in a room with his people.
Yes.
It was a very off-the-cuff conversation. The gentleman, I should have looked it up. I forget his name because I'm not a big TV watcher, who's the star of Pawn Stars, was there, in fact, sitting right in front of me. And the president made a couple digs and jokes at him and said, congratulations on a successful TV program. I know how it is trying to do that because I had an even more successful TV. These kind of Trump-like jokes. And he was just you very much felt like it was almost like a sitting around the campfire talking with your own people kind of thing. It was just a side of him that the media does not show us.
Oh, no, they don't show it, but you get the I get the feeling that the gaggle that's always there with him, whether it's 20 or 100, you can't help but think that they respect the man. I mean, during the last administration, what did they get to talk to, Joe Biden maybe 4 times or something in 4 years? And they wouldn't get anything answered because he was reading from a teleprompter. Right. And so nothing was organic at all. And
Trump's out there every day giving them so much
sometimes
they can't even keep up.
3 a day he's doing. He is so transparent, and they're probably loving it. It makes their job so much easier, and it must be entertaining as heck. Even if he's digging on them, going for it and whatever, it just must be an incredible experience. And for you to be in that room when he was just so natural and so himself, it must have been so much fun.
It was neat. Just almost like I said, a surreal experience. Just when he first walked in there, I said to my friend sitting next to me, I said, it was almost like a caricature of him because you've seen him so many times on TV, but when he walks right by you, you feel like it's going to be Alec Baldwin from Saturday Night Live or something like that.
Yeah, but it's actually him.
He is he's just this unstoppable bundle of energy too. He's just going. All of it was essentially off the top of his head.
Yep.
And he got into the conversation about the IQ test that he's taken and made a couple of jokes about his age and getting a little older. And he said, I promise you that I am all here, up here, 100%. I promise you that the day I'm not, if I'm not feeling well, I will let you know. And as he said that, he stopped and laughed a little bit, and he goes, now watch. What those guys back there pointing at the press, what they're going to take away from this is the president said he's not feeling well.
Exactly.
And that is exactly how this stuff gets spun.
Misconstrued. Boy, that is just what an incredible experience. And I bet there was a lot of laughter, but you probably learned, too. Here you are getting to kind of talk with a quintessential businessman. Yeah, he's all about the deal.
He told a great story. I think it's now kind of out there. Well, I'm sure it is because there was press in the room here, and I think there's been more coverage. At the time, I hadn't really heard much about it, but he told a great story about the reflecting pond over at the National Monument.
Yes.
How it was in poor repair, and they needed to do something about it. So they brought in all these top firms to give estimates on money and time. And forgive me if I'm off here a little bit, but he said I think it was going to be $300+ million to redo it, and they said probably around 3.5 years. And when he said that, he said, and I know because I've built things for a living, that when they say that, they mean 5 years,
right?
And probably $500 million. He said, so I call some of my friends that have done some work for me. He said, I've built a lot of hotels in the years, so I've built a few pools in my life.
Yeah.
I didn't think it needed to be that expensive. So he talked about calling his friends. They got the thing done for, I think it was $19 million in 2 weeks.
I thought it was $3 million.
Maybe it was, yeah. Again, I apologize for it.
But it was like 2 weeks, 2 months or something. It was astonishing.
But the takeaway, without him even really saying it, the takeaway is that if you run this thing like a business, like people who are on budgets that need to look at what kind of money they have to work with, instead of this just sort of unlimited budget feeling that a lot of politicians and a lot of past presidents have had, then it makes a difference.
A total difference. Absolutely true. Well, we only have 3 minutes left, but you promised our audience when you came in last week and talked to us on the morning show, you promised you had a story about one thing was getting into the White House, but another thing was getting out. And do tell us in our final 3 minutes here.
So as we entered and then exited the foyer, the grand foyer of the White House, if any have ever been there, a big, beautiful room that you walk into, there was a military band playing Miles Davis, too, which I thought was cool. Just a reception. There's lemonade and, reception. As we left, it was the same situation, and the president was over there. Again, if you know this room, there's a big stairway that leads to the private residences right there, and he was standing there in kind of a meet and greet environment. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna go over there and get my handshake and hopefully a picture and tell him thank you for the work he's done for business. And as we're making our way that way, all of a sudden Secret Service whisks him away. And the reception environment turned into a, hey, thank you, folks. We appreciate you coming. Hope to see you again at the White House. Thank you, kindly waving us kind of out the door. Well, it turned out that at that moment, the gunman had opened fire over at the monument at J.D. Vance's motorcade, who was driving by. Secret Service took this guy out, but there was kind of a unknown threat, danger at that time, so they put the White House on lockdown. So
you were locked in?
No, they told us to get out.
Oh, they told you to get out.
The important people were locked in.
Wow.
They knew that they had the situation contained, I think, but out of abundance of caution, they put the whole house on lockdown.
So no picture with the president this time?
I got pictures of him, but no pictures of us together.
That's for your next
That'll
visit.
Be the next
I'm sure
trip,
you'll be invited back because I'm sure you were the perfect guest, but you are so perfect for here in Elkhart for us. We are so blessed to have Stephensons of Elkhart, watching over us fashion-wise and style-wise for all these almost 100 years. And it truly is an accomplishment and something that we really are truly grateful for. Danny Reynolds, you and your wonderful family, we thank you. We thank you for keeping us looking good. Hello. I haven't walked out of the house without something from Stephensons on in the last 3 or 4 years. And so grateful for you and all that you've done and all you do for small business. And by going to Washington and representing the small business the way that you do, we're really lucky to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate you guys letting me come back and hope to be back next month.
You will be. Hope you are going to be. Thank you so much. And this was the Style File. We'll see you next time. I'm Laura Smith.
If you missed any part of today's show, log on to 953mnc.com and look for the Spotlight on Business podcast. Be sure to tune in again next Sunday afternoon at 4:30 for Spotlight on Business on News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel, your breaking news and weather station.
Podcasts by Federated Media.